My name is Daniel Carter. I'm 52 years old, and I learned the hardest lesson of my life last year. Sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones holding the knife. It began after my father passed away. He left behind a modest estate, our family house, some savings, and most importantly, his old construction company that he had built with his bare hands. I had worked beside him for decades, through rain, blistering summers, and endless nights on unfinished projects. My younger brother, Scott, had always avoided the hard work, preferring to chase business opportunities that never lasted more than a year. So when the will was read, I wasn't surprised my father left me controlling shares of the company. What I didn't expect was how quickly Scott turned against me. "You can't run this company, Dan," he sneered in front of the lawyer. "You've always been reckless with money. Dad told me you nearly drove the business bankrupt 5 years ago." That was a lie. I had mortgaged my own house to save the company during the 2015 crash. But Scott spoke with such confidence that even my mother, sitting across from me, nodded along. "You're too old for this, Daniel," she added softly. "Scott has energy. He has ideas. Maybe it's time you let him lead." I felt the sting of betrayal. My own mother. My own brother. Within weeks, Scott had filed a petition in court, claiming I was unfit to run the company. His evidence: half-truths and twisted stories, debts I'd already paid off, business risks that had actually saved jobs, moments when stress had nearly broken me. The day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom wearing my father's old wristwatch, the same one he wore when he started Carter Construction. My brother sat across the aisle in a sharp suit, smirking, with my mother beside him. "Your Honor," Scott's lawyer began, "my client will show that Daniel Carter is irresponsible, unstable, and incapable of leading Carter Construction into the future. For the good of the employees, and the family, we request the company be placed under Scott Carter's leadership." As he spoke, my mother nodded, tears in her eyes, as if convinced I had become some kind of failure. I sat there in silence, my hands folded, my heart pounding. I had spent 30 years building that company with Dad. 30 years of sweat, sacrifice, and loyalty. And now, my own blood was trying to strip it from me. What they didn't know was that I had one final witness, someone who would reveal the truth about who had really kept the company alive all those years. And when he walked through the courtroom doors, everything changed. The heavy wooden doors creaked open, and all eyes turned. Walking in was Mr. Jensen, my father's oldest business partner, the man who had worked beside him from the very first brick laid. His hair was silver now, but his voice carried the same power it always had. Scott's smug grin faltered. He hadn't expected this. "Please state your name for the record," the judge said. "Robert Jensen. Former co-founder of Carter Construction. Retired. And your relationship to the defendant?" He looked directly at me and then at the judge. "I worked with Daniel Carter for 30 years. When his father's health declined, it was Daniel, not Scott, who kept this company alive. He sold his own house to cover payroll during the crash. He stayed up nights to finish contracts when others quit. He built this company with his hands while his brother vanished chasing failed ventures." Scott's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. This is just personal opinion." The judge silenced him with a glare. "Overruled. Continue, Mr. Jensen." Mr. Jensen leaned forward, his voice rising. "Your Honor, without Daniel, Carter Construction would have collapsed a decade ago. His brother Scott never once lifted a hammer, never once stayed to finish a shift. He mocked Daniel for working like a laborer. But it was Daniel's sacrifice that saved hundreds of jobs. He didn't just inherit this company, he earned it." A hush fell over the courtroom. I could feel my mother shifting uncomfortably in her seat, her earlier certainty cracking. Scott's face was red, his jaw clenched. He hissed under his breath, "This old man doesn't know what he's talking about." But the judge wasn't listening to him anymore. She was staring at me. Mr. Carter, she said, is it true? You mortgaged your own home for the company? I swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, Your Honor. But I didn't do it for recognition. I did it for my father, for our employees, for the family name. The judge tapped her gavel lightly. Then let it be known, this court finds Daniel Carter more than fit to lead Carter Construction. The petition is denied. The words hit me like thunder. Relief flooded through me. Scott slumped back in his chair, his mouth opening and closing with no words left to spit. His lies had burned out in the light of truth. My mother turned her eyes away from him, shame written across her face. She wouldn't look at me, but for the first time, she didn't look at him either. I stood, breathing deeply, and felt the weight of years lift from my shoulders. Outside the courthouse, Michael, my son, ran up and grabbed my arm. Dad, I knew you wouldn't lose. Grandpa would be proud. I looked at him, my chest tight, and managed a small nod. That day, I didn't just win back the company. I won back my name, my dignity, and my son's belief in me. As for Scott, he walked away pale, beaten not by fists, but by the truth. And that was the sweetest victory of all.